You're watching Reality Check, which today has major impactful breaking news coming in about the CBI charge-sheeting former Finance Minister P Chidambaram. Now, this news comes just about a month after Mr. P Chidambaram had approached the courts seeking anticipatory bail, and also then afterwards being interrogated by both ED and the CBI, and saying that there was nothing to investigate him about. Just after that, he's been charge-sheeted for abuse of power. It's a corruption charge, and not just that, top bureaucrats have also been charge-sheeted, including 2 IAS officers. So it is a case which has major repercussions and impact. And what we are going to do on Reality Check is to talk you through this entire case with our guests, and whether the opposition's charge that it is just political, that it is vindictive, has any basis or not. First, let me tell you what the charges against the top Congress leader and his son Karti Chidambaram are actually. Let me just take you through those charges. First of all, the CBI accuses Mr. Chidambaram of abuse of power. They say that he cleared the Aircel Maxis deal worth 3,200 crores, which is more than what the finance minister could have unilaterally done or cleared through the FIPB, the Foreign Investment Proportion Board. They say that that kind of amount should have been cleared by the cabinet. Now, the valuation of the deal, they say, was initially shown as 180 crore. There's a little catch in that, which we are going to take up a little later in the show, of variations of that figure, which is very key. 180 degrees was it shown, or initially in the application it was shown as 3,200 crores. And then the CBI says that they can't actually make out whether the finance minister was aware of the real value of the deal or not, but they do say, here's the big thing, they do say that the finance minister took kickbacks for the Aircel Maxis deal. What kind of kickbacks? Well, they say that 2 checks were paid, and they were paid to 2 firms which are associated with his son Karti Chidambaram. One was of the sum of 87 lakhs, the other of the sum of 26 lakhs. This is what the CBI says is the kickback in the entire case. So that's the charge really that they have over there. But the real shocking thing in this particular case is that it's not just P Chidambaram and Karti Chidambaram who've been charge-sheeted. It's actually 18 people, which includes some very top senior bureaucrats. 2 of them serving IAS officers. Remember, we've seen whenever an IAS officer or a top bureaucrat get involved, there's been a major blowback, major pushback from the bureaucracy. We see that here as well. So who are the bureaucrats who've been charged? Well, they are Ashok Kumar Jha, who was then Economic Affairs Secretary. So you have the top people, the secretary level people who've been charged in this. You also have Ashok Chawla, then Additional Secretary Economic Affairs. Now, just to give you a little bit of context about how important these people are, well, Ashok Chawla is currently also the chairman of the National Stock Exchange. So a very influential officer. He's a 1973 batch Gujarat cadre IAS officer. He served in key positions in civil aviation, Economic Affairs Ministry. He's headed the Sardar Sarovar project in Gujarat. He's also been chairman of the Competition Commission. So really, one of the top officers over there. So you have 2 secretary level officers. And then here's the key one. They also have Kumar Sanjay Krishna and Deepak Kumar Singh. Kumar Sanjay Krishna and Deepak Kumar Singh both serving IAS officers. And the CBI says that they still don't have sanction to prosecute them yet. They're awaiting sanctions. So just to give you an idea of perhaps the kind of urgency that they felt, that in 2 serving IAS officers' case, they didn't wait for sanction to prosecute. They just went ahead and prosecuted them. So they say a whole bunch of these top officers, all of them colluded with each other so that this investment, foreign investment from Maxis into Aircel in 2006 could take place. So that's what they're saying, and of course Mr. P Chidambaram completely denies that. He says that he's been questioned by the Enforcement Directorate before, twice before he had been, and soon after that he has now faces these serious charges. And on the 31st of July, that's when the court will take this up, whether they take cognizance of it or not, what they say about it. So that we have to wait till 31st of July. But what does the Congress say about it? Well, one of his lawyers, Kapil Sibal, top lawyer, here's his reaction soon after the charge sheet was announced.
This is probably the most mala fide prosecution ever launched, involving high functionaries of the then government, in the government of India, members of the FIPB board, secretaries to the government. I am surprised. It will meet the same fate as other charge sheets of the CBI. This is just a way to harass people, to persecute people. And it has nothing to do with the majesty of law. It is denigrating law.
So the Congress saying that it is completely a vindictive case. Well, what did Mr. P Chidambaram say? He tweeted. He didn't give a soundbite. He just tweeted saying, CBI has been pressured to file a charge sheet to support a preposterous allegation against me and officers with a sterling reputation. The case is now before the Honourable Court and it will be contested vigorously. I shall make no more public comment. That's his statement. And remember, the Aircel Maxis case has also seen another union minister being charge-sheeted, tried, that's Dayanidhi Maran, and he was discharged. But that's a different case. This one about the foreign investment clearance wasn't really the one. So let's talk to our guests about it to see what could be the repercussions of it. From the Congress, we have Sanjay Jha, former CBI Special Director ML Sharma also joining us, and criminal lawyer Ashish Dikshit also joining us. We really wanted to also get a top bureaucrat, a former bureaucrat, to talk about this, but this is so sensitive that most of the bureaucrats that we contacted refused to come on camera and express themselves about what was happening. Sanjay Jha, if I can first start with you. The Congress has immediately said that this is a political case. They reject all the charges. However, the CBI seems to have a quid pro quo established. They say that they have evidence. They say they have the money trail as well. So they have established that in 2006, soon after this was cleared, very soon after, receipts are raised by his son, then Finance Minister's son, Karti Chidambaram's associated or affiliated companies. I know that they dispute that. They say that Advantage and Chess Management are not his companies, but investigating agencies continue to insist that they are ones that he is associated with. So they say they have a clear money trail. So how can the Congress dismiss it so soon? Because this is a case which actually, and these are allegations we've been hearing on for quite a few years now.
Sunitra, before I respond to your specific question, let me mention two facts to just put this entire conversation in context. You have a shocking, stunning expose today, which I think is very pertinent to our discussion, where Christopher Michel, one of the alleged conspirators in the Augusta Westland issue, the advocate has openly stated that India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi was trying to strike a deal so as to indict and malign the former Congress President Srimati Sonia Gandhi. I mean, this is the most deplorable, despicable act of political revenge that is out there in the public domain. I'm sure you're going to be discussing it in one of your programs. If India's Prime Minister is allegedly indulging in such kind of brazen attempt to destroy their political opponents through what I call as a malicious campaign, then I must tell you that India is in serious trouble, and I'm not surprised that many senior bureaucrats refuse to come in the program, because I'm aware, I have a lot of relatives in the bureaucracy who are terrified of this current government. Okay. Point number two, aren't we all aware of the state of the CBI today? There's a war going on in CBI, and we all know why that is going on, because one of the gentlemen concerned is very close to the BJP, and the matter is before the Supreme Court. This is political interference happening in the CBI.
You've given your...
Yeah, now I'm answering your question.
Yeah, okay.
These are two important points to juxtapose my answer. Now I'll answer your question. Now let me tell you, I think number one, as far as the current case is concerned, Mr. Chidambaram is a very, by the way, an accomplished lawyer. I have read many of his responses, both in the INX case as well as in this case. This is a very malevolent exercise in political retribution. Let me tell you, it's interesting that periodically the government wakes up when it is under heat, and we start filing charge sheets, etc., not just the Congress leaders, but several opposition leaders as well. We are 100% convinced that this will be contested in the courts. As Mr. Chidambaram says, the key word is vigorously, and this will not survive a judicial scrutiny. You will see the trial court, you will see the proceedings. I'm sure you're going to cover it, but we want to let you know, and the viewers of NDTV know, that what you're witnessing in India today is a brutal annihilation of democracy, and a brazen abuse of power by Mr. Modi's government, starting with the Prime Minister himself.
No, just if you could keep it brief, then we can really have a conversation over here. Sure. You're alleging that it's all vindictive, but why would the CBI rope in all the bureaucrats? These are very influential bureaucrats, just to do what you're alleging, just to be vindictive towards a former finance minister. Why would they get in everyone else in the net? Isn't that far-fetched?
Well, let me tell you, I think Mr. Chidambaram has already stated, number one, the key word again being preposterous. So we in the Congress party maintain the same view. It's an absurd and atrocious charge. And number two, let me tell you this as well. Mr. Chidambaram has been a finance minister not for the first time. If the government or the CBI believes that he's not aware of the FIPB rules and he would brazenly violate the rules on investment to get a kickback for his son, who would then take it through a check, I mean, we are talking about an absolutely ludicrous accusation, but it's not my job to argue the case. I think Mr. Chidambaram and his team will do that. That's the key point I want to mention. This will be fought transparently, and the people of India will see who lied here.
Okay, Mr. Sharma, as someone who took the decisions before about who to charge sheet, who not to, I want to start with a very simple thing. We'll get to the, I want to start with the technicality. Is it very unusual to charge sheet such top officers, IAS officers, without sanction?
See, I'll add a few more sentences to put the whole thing in perspective. You have given the factual matrix. I'll not repeat that, but here is a subtle point. The allegation is that the finance minister's power was 600 crores approval, being head of FIPB, but the actual money that came to the country was 3,200 crores. Now the subtle point is that the shares that came in, the par value of these shares was 180 crores, but the actual value was much more.
Yeah.
So I informally gathered from sources, they put this question to the bureaucrats who have been charge sheeted, and I know some of them have sterling reputation regarding integrity, and they responded to the CBI. They told the CBI that sometimes we look at the value of investment in terms of par value of shares, and sometimes we take actual value. So in other words, what I'm saying is par value is much lesser than actual value. This charge sheet is entirely based on the actual value. So it depends on the judicial scrutiny, the court, what view do they take. This is one aspect of the matter. Second aspect is that assuming that the court takes the view that the par value is the right value, which was taken into consideration by the bureaucracy and by the finance minister. Now here the question arises, what do you do with the alleged quid pro quo, which the CBI is alleging? Again, it's a matter of judicial scrutiny. So if the court takes the view that par value is the real value, then bureaucrats are out of the net. But notwithstanding that, Chidambaram and Karti, they have to explain that there was no quid pro quo. This is my professional analysis. So the court has to look at the whole matter very minutely in the light of jurisprudential principles.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting is that we saw in the 2G case that the CBI at that time showed a quid pro quo through check. The court wasn't convinced in that particular case. That's what the Congress is saying, that, you know, the court won't get convinced by all of it, especially in this particular case where we've seen an acquittal. But so very quickly, you didn't answer my question. Is it unusual to have all these IAS officers, or, you know, there are 2 sitting IAS officers, to prosecute them, to charge sheet them without sanction? Is that unusual?
See, charge sheet can be filed without sanction, and sanction can be obtained later and subsequently filed in the court. But the legal principle is that even if the charge sheet has been filed without sanction, the court cannot take cognizance until the sanction for prosecution is received from the competent authority. So it's not unusual.
It's not unusual. Okay, Ashish Dixit, if I read between the lines of what ML Sharma is saying, because he's a former CBI officer and you know they're very discreet, but the signal I'm getting from what he's saying is that he's not very convinced about these charges, and it could go either way depending on what the judiciary feels about this. But you, as a criminal lawyer, do you think it's a strong charge sheet?
See, Sunetra, as of now, I have not seen the charge sheet, what is written in it, but there is a larger issue involved here, that why this charge sheet is filed. That you will recollect, in March 2018, the Supreme Court had directed CBI to conclude all 2G related investigation, including the Aircel Maxis, within 6 months. So 4 months have elapsed, I believe. That's why they have concluded their investigation and have filed a charge sheet. Now, the learned friend from the CBI is entirely correct that yes, charge sheets are filed without sanctions. The court will wait for the time being when the sanction is given, and in case the sanction is not given, then against those accused the court may not proceed. So it is not unusual for CBI to file the charge sheet. And as far as there is another defense which has been given by Congress, that there is already a charge sheet filed and in which the court had discharged all the accused. That will not have any bearing in my understanding of law in the present case, because this is a completely different transaction. There are completely different allegations, completely different allegations of quid pro quo, whether they do get substantiated or not.
Okay, Ashish Dixit, here's the thing. As just someone who's followed a lot of criminal cases, a lot of CBI cases, to prove that so many bureaucrats, right, so many bureaucrats got together with the finance minister and together conspired to pass this and then all of them misused their power, isn't that very difficult to prove?
See, it depends upon what is the money trail and what is the evidence involved. See, it's not that you have to be very active in the conspiracy. Your knowledge and your omission can also be taken into account. So bureaucrats have responsibility of alerting the minister, or at least putting on file that yes, this may be an issue in this matter. So even if that was not done, obviously the CBI is entitled to file a charge sheet. It is upon the court to see whether the evidence is sufficient or not. And I am sure that CBI would have filed certain list of witnesses and other evidences which will in the understanding of CBI are sufficient to file charge sheet.
Okay, Sanjay Shah, you wanted to add?
Sunetra, I think the country has been witness to how the reputation of UPA 2 was mercilessly destroyed by the BJP. And we all know what happened to the 2G issue later on. I don't want to even use the word 2G scam. It was never a scam. And yet our government was destroyed on that. And this is exactly what the BJP does. It unleashes this, very well orchestrated propaganda machine, fake news and everything else put together. And this is what they do. I can tell you here, even in this case, I don't want to comment on the share premium and the par value, etc. These will be argued in the courts. It's not my job to do it here in a TV studio. But this is a pertinent point that you got to keep in mind. That end of day, to kind of make these kind of allegations, the CBI today You know, if you looked at some of the numbers that came up during 2G, there were 4 or 5 numbers.
Okay,
the CBI's number was entirely
case.
different.
No,
I think there
Sajid
are
Jha,
issues in terms
this
of
is not the 2G
fundamental
case, it's a
capability
completely
to
different
understand
one.
financial
And
valuations.
It's a case that we've been hearing about much before 2014. It's a case that has lingered and now it's just that, yes, it's a 2006.
Well, this is going to meet the same fate.
Okay, so I want to go back to you, Mr. Sharma. If you can put on your bureaucrat hat now and not the investigator hat, I wanted to ask you that, do you see a lot of backlash in this with such top bureaucrats being involved? We saw in H.C. Gupta's case, which was another CBI case, where a former coal secretary was tried and charge sheeted, and he was convicted as well. In that, we saw it really created a huge furor, and a lot of bureaucrats were really upset. They gave public statements. Do you see, what kind of repercussions do you see from this particular case as well, where we see 2 secretary level officers charge sheeted and 2 sitting IS officers charge sheeted?
In criminal matters, the ranks of the individuals have no value. It just doesn't matter who you are. Question is whether there is credible evidence and sustainable case on the basis of which prosecution is being launched. I have analyzed the case. CBI has looked at the available evidence from one particular perspective, and the whole thing against bureaucrats hinges on whether the court takes into consideration the par value of the shares or the actual value of the shares. It is the most critical point. Rest is all politics. So therefore, if the court takes the view that par value was the legitimate value which needed to be considered by the FIPB, then the case against the bureaucrats will go. But if the court takes the same view as the CBI has taken, then there will be difficulty, because
that's
my
very
information is
but sir,
that
that's very interesting. So it all depends on the share value. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Share value. Because my information, just one sentence. My information is that the same bureaucrats, in some cases, they have taken into consideration par value. In some cases, they have taken into consideration actual value. This is what I have been told. So it depends. Actually, the court has to play a very critical role now, because the court's view may be consistent with the CBI view, or it may be divergent on this issue. But as I said, and I am repeating, I need not repeat, Chidambaram Kirti has to explain about the quid pro quo if there is evidence. In that case, par value of the share, actual value doesn't matter.
That's right. Well, that's what they're saying, sir. They're saying that in this particular case, not only is the value different, because they quoted 180 crores, in which case, as you're saying, it's fine. If it is 3,200 crores, then it is a violation, because then it shouldn't have been cleared by the finance minister and the FIPB board. It should have gone to cabinet. So that's the thing. But do you want to clarify on that? Not just that, the fact that they're saying they have a money trail, that they say they have traced payments to firms associated with his son, P Chidambaram, does that then make the thing much more stronger?
Yes, because that is the whole case against Mr. Chidambaram and his son. To get out of this money trail would be something which is difficult, because everything is on record. And as far as bureaucrats are concerned, the former CBI director has very rightly said it depends upon the discretion and the judicial functioning of the court, that yes, whether they are going to consider this on that value or not. But with regard to Mr. Chidambaram, it is a clear case as per the CBI that there is a money trail and there was quid pro quo for a favor done by using his office. So that is the allegation against Mr. Chidambaram.
Are there precedences like this, Ashish Dixit? Can you give us any precedent where there was a case like this and it was successfully prosecuted?
One thing I would like to point out. See, See, in most of the cases, this is in every PC Act case, this is the basic requirement that there has to be misuse of office and there has to be some benefit for that. So the misuse of office in this case is that FIBB was not entitled to give the approval, and Mr. Chidambaram,
Okay, we're totally out of time. I just want to give the last word to
approval.
Sanjay Jha.
And for that, a quid pro quo.
Okay, Sanjay Jha, last word to you. We're totally out of time. I want to ask you, would you admit that this has been a bit of a blow for all your colleagues here in Delhi who are otherwise preparing for the no confidence motion?
Sunita, let me tell you, in politics, especially with Narendra Modi's government at the center, the Congress party has been prepared for any eventuality. We know that this government will stoop to the lowest common denominator to try and insult the opposition, intimidate the opposition, and ultimately at the end of the day, you know what Modi has done? He's united the opposition. There will be political repercussions, but I think the Congress party at the moment would publicly like to tell the people of India that what you're witnessing is a political culture of the worst kind of vindictiveness, where reputations are being destroyed, people are being hounded, and all kinds of, you know, what I call as concocted allegations are being manufactured. But we believe in the courts of India. I'm not going to argue the case in front of you. We have enough facts. They will be established in the court, and Mr. Chidambaram will triumph at the end of it.
Okay, what is definitely guaranteed is that it is going to be quite a legal battle over here. Top bureaucrats, top minister, former minister against the CBI, the country's premier investigating agency, which has always also come under a cloud by the opposition. We're totally out of time, Ashish. We are going to keep tracking this story for you. So stay tuned, and you can follow this story with us here on NDTV. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.